abdominal aorta. Okay. So next, same thing I talked about earlier. So here you go. This is the left pulmonary artery and the great veins. So the pulmonary trunk, left pulmonary artery, and right pulmonary artery. Left pulmonary artery goes to your left lungs, and right pulmonary artery goes to right lungs. This is the arch of aorta, left pulmonary artery. I talked about these things. Okay. The heart anterior view, and we're going to see the deepest structure. So you see, this is the superior vena cava, then aorta, right coronary artery, which arises just above the aortic valve. And then there is marginal artery, anterior interventricular artery in the anterior interventricular sulcus. And this is the branch of left coronary artery, which divide and forms the anterior interventricular artery and circumflex artery. So if the pointer is here, it is left coronary artery. This is the pulmonary trunk. There is pulmonary artery, and this is ligamentum arteriosus. This is the remnant of fetal structure, which connects your pulmonary trunk to the aorta. In fetus, there is mixing of venous blood with the systemic blood. Okay, and here you can see the muscles inside the heart. The chambers, right atrium and right ventricle. In the heart, there is one-way blood flow. So between each chambers, there is a valve. So right side, there is right atrioventricular valve that is called tricuspid valve because it has 3 cusps. In the left side, you have left atrium, left ventricle, and the valve between the left atrium and left ventricle is called left atrioventricular valve, or we call it bicuspid valve. It has only 2 cusps. That's why we call them bicuspid valve. The right ventricle and left ventricle is separated from each other by interventricular septum. When right ventricle contract, it pumps blood into pulmonary trunk. And pulmonary trunk has removed here, so you cannot see the pulmonary semilunar valve. In the left ventricle, when left ventricle contracts, it ejects blood from left ventricle to the aorta through the aortic semilunar valve, which prevents blood from backflowing from aorta into the left ventricle. These valves are attached to the myocardium of the heart wall. So if you see here, you see these first valves are connected to the connective tissue. And that connective tissue are attached to the finger-like muscle projection that is called papillary muscle. And papillary muscles are the part of the myocardium of the ventricle wall. So these flaps, papillary muscles and chordae tendineae keeps the valves in position and prevents from everting. Okay. This is the posterior view of the heart, and you can see in the left side there is right atrium, and in the right side there is left atrium. Left atrium receives blood from two pairs of pulmonary veins which carry oxygen-rich blood from your lungs. The right pulmonary artery from the right pulmonary vein from the right lungs, and left pulmonary vein from the left lungs. Okay. The right ventricle, and then this is the, usually this part is the base of the heart, and this is the apex of the heart. And you see interventricular sulcus, left ventricle, right ventricle, and there is arteries. You see the coronary arteries. These all coronary arteries in the wall of heart becomes veins, and those veins joins and ultimately forms the coronary sinus, which also opened into right atrium. Okay, so right atrium receives blood mainly from superior vena cava here, inferior vena cava, and coronary sulcus. These are the structure again, all the structure we talked about. These are the different cardiac, small cardiac veins and their structure. This is again heart posterior view and position. You see here, this is the trachea, principal bronchi, just behind your heart. And you can see pulmonary vein, pulmonary artery, superior vena cava, cardiac veins, great cardiac vein, coronary sinus, middle cardiac vein, posterior interventricular artery, small cardiac vein, inferior vena cava. So these are the great vessels. Now, heart Entero superior view. So when you are looking from the anterior and superior view inside, in atria and ventricles, you see several structures. So here, between the right and left atrium, there is interatrial septum, which separates right atrium from the left atrium. And in the center of interatrial septum, there is egg-like depression, and that is called fossa ovalis. Again, this fossa ovalis is a remnant of opening of the fetal heart, where in the fetal life, the blood is flowing from right atrium to the left atrium. But before birth, these opening closes. Sometimes they remain, and that produce murmur. Okay. The finger-like projecting small muscles inside the right atrium is called pectinate muscles. They're like comb-like muscles. Okay. Uh, we talked about chordae papillary muscles, which are only in the ventricle, not in the atria, because they hold the valves to the wall. Then interventricular, there is like enfolding of the muscles layer inside the, it is like irregular surface of the ventricles, inner surface, and that is called trabeculae carinii. Okay. And you can see this is the pulmonary semilunar valve, which is the valve between the pulmonary trunk and right ventricle. You can see the opening of coronary sinus. As I said earlier, all the venous blood from heart itself drain into the right atrium through the opening of coronary sinus. Again, that is anterior superior surface, and we talked about it all. These are the valves you can see: pulmonary valve, tricuspid valve, papillary muscle, trabeculae carinii, right ventricle, apex of the heart, left ventricle, chordae tendineae, mitral valve, aortic semilunar valve, interventricular septum. This is the heart again, anterior view with different chamber. And here is superior vena cava, right auricle, right ventricle, left auricle, pulmonary trunk, and aorta, and all other great vessels here, which we talked earlier. Heart posterior view, the same structure in different model. It's not so good model. The earlier was better, and you can see the relationship. So behind your aorta, you have behind your heart, your trachea, esophagus, all the structures. This is opened and all the valves and inside of the structure of your heart. Okay, so this is all in the cardiovascular system for the blood and the heart lab part. Okay, thank you guys.